Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of your sources, articles, research, your own notes, and really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge or insight, giving you a shortcut to being well-informed.
That's right.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a highly influential, yet perhaps surprisingly overlooked piece of television history, FX's gritty crime drama, The Shield.
Oh, a classic.
Absolutely. This is a show that wrapped up its 7-season run over a decade ago, but man, its impact and themes, they continue to resonate deeply with audiences and critics alike.
Yeah, they really do. Our mission for this deep dive, essentially, is to explore why. Why does this show hold such a powerful grip on its viewers and, on the landscape of television itself?
Right.
We'll be uncovering its groundbreaking impact, dissecting the incredibly complex moral compass of its characters, and complex is maybe an understatement, and analyzing its profound, often pretty unsettling commentary on American policing and society. We're really going to dig into the layers that make The Shield a true standout, a standout in the pantheon of television dramas.
And to guide us through this intricate world, our insights today are primarily drawn from, well, a fascinating collection of sources you've shared with us. We've got a comprehensive fan review from Reddit, boldly titled, My Full Review, The Shield, the best TV show of all time. So, no pressure there.
Setting the bar high.
Right, offering a passionate fan's perspective. We also have a provocative thread asking, Shane is my favorite character on this show. Am I alone? Which really delves into the audience's conflicted emotions about one of the series' most complex figures.
Oh, Shane, yeah, we'll definitely get into him.
Plus, there's a compelling character analysis from Reddit, what made Vic Mackey act the way he does. But it's not just fan perspectives. We're also pulling from critical analyses. We've got Collider's The Shield Revisited, how the FX drama launched peak TV, crucial insight there into its industry impact.
Very important piece.
And Jacobin's 20 years ago, The Shield captured the brokenness of American policing. That provides a vital socio-political lens, offering a critical reevaluation of its themes, especially in today's context.
Yeah, that one really reframes things.
This wealth of material gives us multiple, often contrasting perspectives on what makes The Shield truly unique and why it remains so relevant. You might think you know cop dramas, but The Shield, it's about to challenge every preconceived notion. So let's unpack this and uncover what makes this series so enduring.
Okay, so to really appreciate The Shield, you have to place it within the context of television at the turn of the millennium. Historically, law enforcement shows they've dominated the airwaves.
For sure.
Consider this. Roughly 20% of all scripted network TV shows are typically centered on police work. And almost always they're, valorizing honorable characters and their unwavering pursuit of justice, often with a neat, tidy resolution by the end of each episode.
The standard formula.
Exactly. The Shield, however, made a dramatic departure from this established formula. It turns that boilerplate cop show premise completely on its head in a way no one had quite seen before, especially not on basic cable.
And it wasn't just another show for just another network, was it? This felt like a huge gamble for FX at the time.
It was monumental, a really bold move for FX. Back in the early 2000s, FX had this incredibly ambitious goal. They wanted to elevate their cable programming to the same high standards as, say, the premium channels like HBO, Cinemax, Showtime.
The big players.
Right, the ones already known for pushing boundaries with shows like The Sopranos or Oz. But here's the kicker, the really interesting part. FX wanted to do it without hitting consumers with that premium subscription price tag.
Make it accessible.
Exactly. Deliver premium content accessible to a wider audience. And The Shield was their absolute trailblazer. Its success didn't just earn critical acclaim, though it certainly did that.
Oh yeah, awards galore.
It transformed FX itself. It became, as one source notes, a veritable carousel of award-winning shows. It launched showrunners who became household names, people like Sean Ryan himself, Kurt Sutter,
Right.
and talented cast members who got their big breaks on the small screen, proving that compelling, nuanced drama wasn't exclusive to paid subscriptions. It cracked the code, in a way.
That's precisely right. Its early success created this significant ripple effect. A genuine snowball effect, really, across the entire television industry.
Yeah, you could feel it shifting.
For FX itself, this included other boundary-pushing dramas like Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk's Nip Tuck.
Which was wild for basic cable at the time.
Totally wild. And later, American Horror Story, which kind of redefined horror on TV, and Dennis Leary's fighter drama Rescue Me.
All big hits for them.
But the influence extended far beyond FX's own lineup. Other networks clearly took notice of this new appetite for darker, more complex narratives. For example, AMC launched Breaking Bad in 2008, the same year The Shield aired its final season.
Wow, I didn't realize the timing was that close.
Yeah. And then The Walking Dead, not long after that. It's particularly noteworthy that key figures like Kurt Sutter,
Who wrote extensively for The Shield.
right, and went on to create Sons of Anarchy, another dark, morally ambiguous show about an outlaw motorcycle club, and Glenn Mazzara, who also wrote for The Shield and later worked on The Walking Dead.
So direct lineage there.
Direct lineage. They found early success in their careers with The Shield. They leveraged those experiences with gritty storytelling and deeply flawed characters into heading up these darker, more complex dramas down the road. It fundamentally changed the TV landscape.
What's truly fascinating here, though, is that The Shield wasn't just some abstract piece of fiction, conjured from thin air.
Yeah.
It had its roots in very real and, frankly, very disturbing events. It grounded its premise in something truly unsettling.
Yeah, it wasn't just made up.
It absolutely wasn't. The show's premise was primarily inspired by the real-world Rampart Division corruption scandal within the Los Angeles Police Department, the LAPD. That just exploded into public consciousness in the late 1990s.
Right, I remember that. It was huge news.
Huge. The Los Angeles Times didn't mince words, describing this as the worst corruption scandal in LAPD history. This wasn't a minor incident involving a few isolated bad actors. It was a systemic breakdown. It shook public trust in law enforcement to its core, exposing this deep-seated corruption and misconduct that had clearly been festering for years.
And the show's creator, Sean Ryan, actually had a front row seat, so to speak, to some of these disturbing dynamics, didn't he? That must have been a pivotal experience for him.
It really was. Sean Ryan initially shadowed the LAPD for a much rosier, more traditional cop show he was developing at the time called Nash Bridges. The kind designed to valorize police work.
Right. Don Johnson, very different vibe.
Totally different. However, what he witnessed during these ride-alongs was much darker, as he later recounted. He saw the stark realities of urban policing, the moral compromises, the often blurred lines between law enforcement and the criminal underworld. These observations directly influenced his pilot script for The Shield, shifting his focus dramatically from valorizing police work to, exposing its darker, more complex underbelly. The seeds of Vic Mackey's strike team were sown right there in those first-hand encounters.
And that darker vision really crystallized in the infamous strike team itself. It wasn't just a few bad apples, like you said. What we saw on screen was basically a gang of cops operating with their own rules. How did the Rampart scandal specifically inform the creation of this team?
Well, the Rampart scandal came fully to light when Officer Rafael Perez, a former member of the LAPD's anti-gang unit, was caught stealing $1 million worth of cocaine from an evidence locker. Yeah. Facing a lengthy prison sentence, Perez agreed to a plea deal that required him to expose widespread corruption within the LAPD. His testimony implicated nearly 70 police officers in a whole litany of crimes: bogus arrests, false confessions, perjured testimony, planting evidence on suspects, even unprovoked shootings. Just unbelievable stuff.
70 officers. That's staggering.
It is. Perez revealed that these illicit practices were most prevalent among the city's anti-gang units, and that directly inspired Detective Vic Mackey's corrupt strike team. The show's very title card, the one featuring a fractured police badge.
Yeah, very symbolic.
And its theme song, Just Another Day. They visually reinforce the perspective that violent and often extra-legal control of Los Angeles' minority and poor neighborhoods is just routine for these officers. It blurs the lines between police and the very gangs they claim to fight.
That's a key point.
The Jacobin source highlights this explicitly, pointing to one particularly unsettling episode, Our Gang, that even directly compares the funerals of a gang member and a police officer. It highlights this chilling and intentional parallel between the two groups. It's a clear statement from the outset that the show intends to dismantle our preconceived notions.
Speaking of clear statements, the pilot episode of The Shield really wasted no time in telling you exactly what kind of show you were in for. It was shocking right from the get-go.
Oh, absolutely. From its debut in March 2002, The Shield immediately signaled its difference. It initially appeared kind of similar to a well-produced episode of Cops, actually, because of its cinema verite, shaky cam style of filmmaking.
Yeah, that handheld feel.
Which was quite uncommon for scripted dramas at the time, particularly on basic cable. This raw, documentary-like aesthetic pulled viewers directly into the chaotic world of the fictional Farmington district, a notoriously rough neighborhood in Los Angeles. The pilot introduced audiences to a tough anti-gang task force, along with a new guy, Terry Crowley, played by Reed Diamond.
The audience surrogate, kinda.
Exactly. He served as the everyman for viewers to relate to, inviting them into this chaotic and morally gray world through his eyes.
But then, the pilot makes a truly pivotal choice. A choice that immediately signals what kind of show this really is. Here's where it just grabs you by the collar.
Indeed. Just when you think you're settling into a familiar cop drama, Vic Mackey, leading his own criminal gang of fellow cops, Shane Vendrell, Curtis Lemansky, and Ronnie Gardaki, commits an act so shocking it fundamentally redefined the genre.
The big one.
The big one. To prevent Crowley from exposing their deep-seated corruption and illegal operations, Vic fatally shoots him in cold blood, and then audaciously frames a suspect for the deed.
Unbelievable first episode.
This brutal, unapologetic act immediately separated The Shield from all other cop dramas. It grabbed viewers by the collar, shook them out of their broadcast TV doldrums, and unequivocally stated, "You are not in Law and Order land anymore."
Okay.
As one fan review emphatically points out, this single act of murder in the pilot forms a core arc around which the entire 7-season series is built. It's an incredibly brilliant structural choice that underpins the whole narrative and constantly reminds the audience of the extreme moral compromises at play.
It's incredible how that one moment defines everything that follows for 7 seasons. And the way they filmed it all, that visual style, it was just as audacious and uncompromising as the plot itself.
Yeah, the look matched the content.
Yeah.
The show's distinctive handheld camera work and close mid-plan camera panning. It was initially something one Reddit user admitted they couldn't tolerate in films, found jarring.
I can see that. It can be intense.
But they ultimately fell in love with it in The Shield. This style immerses you so completely that you feel like you are, quote, breathing just around their shoulders, seeing the bad side of Farmington so close that you feel how disgusting this district is.
Wow, that's evocative.
It creates this visceral, almost documentary-like authenticity that really enhances the grittiness of the setting. It's an incredible work from the cinematographers and editors who managed to make this seemingly jarring style feel totally integral to the storytelling. It makes you, the viewer, a direct, uncomfortable witness to everything unfolding.
And it wasn't just how it looked, but how it felt. The pacing was just relentless. It kept you glued right on the edge of your seat.
The pacing is described as relentlessly dynamic, fast, and realistic. Unlike many modern TV shows that, as one viewer notes, kind of drag melodrama to extend seasons or try to be sentimental.
Yeah, you see that a lot now.
The Shield keeps everything happening so fast that sometimes you can't even catch a breath. There's just no fat on this narrative. Viewers report not a single dull episode, with something compelling happening in every single installment to keep you attached to the screen. Whether it's those melancholic moments of quiet desperation or the fast-paced action sequences.
It never lets up.
Never. This commitment to dynamic storytelling, to never wasting a moment, truly embodies what makes cinema alive and fascinating, delivering constant engagement without manufactured emotional beats or, filler.
So, with all this chaos and moral ambiguity, let's talk about the characters at the heart of this. Especially Vic Mackey. He's not your typical hero or even your typical anti-hero, really. What made him such a compelling, almost magnetic figure despite everything he does?
Vic Mackey is truly the quintessential anti-hero, and Michael Chiklis's portrayal is absolutely central to this. Chiklis, who, as you might remember, was previously known for his easygoing and creatively comedic lead role as a wholesome police commissioner in The Commish.
Totally different character. Night and day.
Night and day. He was utterly transformed into a brutally violent and manipulative anti-hero as Vic Mackey. That casting choice itself was a statement. While some viewers initially perceived maybe overacting in the early seasons, perhaps struggling to reconcile the actor they knew with this new, terrifying role.
Yeah, it was a shock.
His later performances,
Yeah.
there's this remarkable 42-second silence in front of Olivia, where he conveys layers of internal struggle and desperation without saying a single word. Or the chilling finalized scenes in the finale, where his entire world is just collapsing around him. Those demonstrated pure mastery. Many consider them some of the best acting moments in cinema history, period.
He really was the anchor, wasn't he? It felt like he was always pushing forward, always figuring a way out, no matter the obstacle. But what made him so uniquely effective at that? Was it just sheer willpower or something else driving him?
He was absolutely the anchor. Vic is consistently well-written throughout all 7 seasons, serving as the show's center of gravity. He's portrayed as charismatic, strategic, intensely masculine, undeniably cool under pressure and incredibly real in his
It
contradictions.
had that charisma, yeah.
He possesses this undeniable willpower and dedication. He's often unafraid to confront danger alone in gang territory, demonstrating a metal backbone, this core of unshakable resolve. He consistently uses shortcuts in police work that, as one Reddit user put it, only he can manage, leveraging his intimidation tactics and street knowledge to get results no one else could or would.
The ends justify the means for him.
Pretty much. Even after a mental breakdown in Season 1, where he briefly seems to grapple with his actions, he recovers in minutes, just snaps back, always pushing forward, embodying an almost unstoppable singular force that holds the strike team together, for better or worse. Mostly worse.
And this leads to a fascinating debate among viewers. Is he truly the greatest anti-hero in cinema history, as one source suggests, or is he something far more sinister?
That's a strong claim, greatest anti-hero, but it's one that resonates with many viewers precisely because he evokes such conflicted feelings. While many side characters within the show, hate him and fear his methods.
Understandable.
Right. Vic consistently steps up when no one else can resolve a problem, often bringing a form of brutal order to an otherwise lawless district. He embodies the idea, often repeated by his supporters, that Farmington, being so dirty and chaotic, needs someone dirty as Vic to clean it.
The necessary evil argument.
Exactly. Interestingly, Sean Ryan himself once claimed that 98% of the time Mackey is doing the right thing. Now, this comes as a surprise to anyone who watches the show, as the Jacobin source points out dryly.
Yeah, 98% feels generous.
Extremely generous.
Right.
Because his strike team is seen flagrantly breaking almost every law on the books for what feels like 98% of most episodes, planting evidence, torturing suspects, outright murder. This creates a huge dramatic tension or profound dissonance between the creator's perceived intent and the audience's interpretation of Vic's morality. It makes him a character viewers endlessly dissect and debate. Is he good? Is he evil? Is he just necessary?
And then there's Shane Vendrell, Vic's right-hand man and arguably the most tragic figure in the entire series. He's such a divisive, yet for some incredibly beloved character. What made him so impactful, especially considering his journey?
Oh, Shane Vendrell. His character trajectory is truly remarkable and speaks volumes about the show's depth and its ability to manipulate audience empathy. One Reddit user confessed Shane was their favorite character, even over Vic.
Really? Over Vic?
Yeah, admitting to rooting for him despite his increasingly awful deeds. Historically, viewers were deeply conflicted about Shane. Some wanted him dead by Season 5, just infuriated by his impulsive and destructive actions. But by Season 6, as one source highlights, the writers masterfully made viewers pity him so bad.
They really turned it around.
They did. He's frequently described as a masterpiece of a character played by a stellar actor, Walton Goggins, who consistently evokes passionate, complex responses from the audience, forcing them to confront their own moral boundaries. You hate him, you pity him, you sometimes even root for him against your better judgment.
He did some truly horrific things, especially with the Armenians, that money train heist. Yet you're right, there's a certain pervasive empathy for him by the end. How did the show manage to achieve that, to make us pity a character who committed such heinous acts?
Well, while Shane certainly did horrible things, and the Armenian money train heist, which just spiraled into mass murder, is probably the peak of that.
Total disaster.
Total disaster.
Yeah.
Many viewers felt he always did what he thought he had to do, maybe, and wasn't necessarily any more crooked than Vic in his intent, perhaps just less competent in his execution.
Yeah.
More impulsive.
Yeah, less strategic, maybe.
His character's evolution, particularly in the latter half of the series, is seen as deeply tragic. After killing Curtis Lemansky, which was just a shocking betrayal, even for viewers who knew the show was dark, given Lem's moral compass and loyalty.
That one hurt.
It really did. After that, Shane's downward spiral and the regret he felt became almost unbearable to watch. It made him incredibly sympathetic. The user notes that Vic essentially nurtured Shane's bad side, taking a flawed but perhaps redeemable officer and molding him into a morally bankrupt criminal in uniform.
Vic's influence was key.
Absolutely. The implication, strongly supported by Shane's desperate, heartbreaking final letter, which summarizes him as just a guy with bad tendencies, is that in a life without Vic's corrupting influence, Shane might have been a more mundane, flawed character rather than the tragic figure consumed by guilt and ultimately driven to such horrific ends.
And you can't talk about Shane without talking about Walton Goggins. He truly transformed that role, didn't he? He became such a standout in a show full of incredible performances.
Oh, absolutely. Goggins' portrayal is consistently praised. Many call him the best actor on the show. who makes it very easy to connect with his character no matter what the circumstances.
He makes you feel it.
His intensity, his raw vulnerability, his ability to make audiences feel almost every emotion there is, from anger and disgust to profound pain and sorrow, it's frequently highlighted as a masterclass in acting. And beyond the Shield, Goggins has just killed it in a string of acclaimed roles.
Yeah, he's everywhere now.
From Boyd Crowder in Justified, his hilarious turns in Vice Principals and The Gemstones, his memorable, unsettling performance in Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, he cemented himself as a goddamn national treasure who, as one user put it, should be featured more.
Agreed.
The character Shane Vendrell will undoubtedly stick with many viewers long after the show has ended, and that's a huge testament to Goggins' masterful, unforgettable performance.
What's fascinating here is that this moral ambiguity isn't just limited to Vic and Shane. It's a foundational element woven into the entire fabric of the series, creating a world where basically no one is truly innocent.
That's a crucial point. The Shield excels at presenting characters with ambiguous moralities, making it genuinely difficult for viewers to simply love or hate them. This is a show where, as one source puts it, nobody is black and white. It forces you to confront the complexities of human nature under extreme pressure.
Even the quote-unquote good characters have their moments.
Exactly. Even Claudette Wims, played brilliantly by CCH Pounder, who is generally portrayed as a good character and often serves as a moral counterpoint to Vic's depravity. Even she is shown to be corrupt in her own ways.
Like with Cleavon.
Precisely. She frees a known criminal, Cleavon Gardner, from the death penalty by tampering with evidence, not out of malice necessarily, but to protect her own position and legacy within the department. This demonstrates that the corruption extends beyond just the strike team. It permeates the very fabric of the department. It shows how good intentions can still lead to morally compromised actions within a broken system.
So it's less about clear-cut good versus evil and more about a constant, uncomfortable moral dilemma. It pushes you to question your own ethics, putting you right in their shoes.
Exactly. The show constantly challenges viewers to put yourself in his shoes, questioning what you will do in their shoes. This focus on real people who turned wrong ways and meet the consequences fosters deep discussion among its audience about characters' actions and the nature of loyalty, friendship, cowardice, hypocrisy, all of it.
Big themes.
It makes you think about how easily someone can rationalize their actions, or how incredibly difficult it is to maintain integrity in a corrupt environment. One Reddit user even calls it a miracle that such depth can be in cop TV show, emphasizing how it elevates the genre beyond typical good versus evil narratives by presenting a world where every single decision has a price and absolutely no one escapes unscathed.
And the complexity extends to other characters too, right? Even those who might seem on the periphery at first glance have these incredibly nuanced stories, sometimes with these tragic echoes beyond the show itself.
Absolutely. Discussions extend to other characters, like Dutch Wagenbach, the empathetic but socially awkward detective. Some viewers wished for a spin-off exploring his darker potential, maybe as a serial killer or an FBI agent, because the show definitely hints at his deep psychological complexities.
Yeah, Dutch was fascinating.
And then there's Kenny Johnson's character, Curtis Lemansky, or Lem. His death in The Shield was tragically mirrored with a similar fate for his character in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh yeah, the Kurt Sutter connection again.
Right, a deliberate and poignant nod from Sutter. In Sons of Anarchy, Johnson's character, Kozik, is killed by an explosion, and his last words are, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me," which many viewers took as an in-joke referencing Lem's sudden tragic demise. Plus, remember Vic used to call Lem Lemonhead as an insult.
Oh, right, little details like that.
Yeah. The show's ability to humanize even its most problematic characters like Shane, despite his explicit racism, by showing his vulnerabilities and regrets, creates an emotional corkscrew, as one Black fan describes it. This allows viewers to root for characters in surprising and often uncomfortable ways, forcing them to grapple with their own biases and moral boundaries.
That's a powerful way to put it, an emotional corkscrew. And that emotional impact often stems from the show's broader themes. Let's delve into a deeper exploration of The Shield's profound commentary on American policing itself, because it really goes beyond just character studies, doesn't it? It critiques the very system.
It absolutely does. The Shield is seen by many, especially when you look back through the lens of recent events, as less a story about individual bad apples and more a condemnation of the entire enterprise of American policing.
It feels very prescient now.
It really does. It vividly captured the depravity and brokenness of the system, anticipating and reflecting discussions that would animate events like the George Floyd protests decades later. The show depicts systemic issues, not just isolated instances of corruption. It demonstrates how the very structure and culture of policing can foster misconduct and moral decay.
And it makes a strong case that policing, as it's often practiced, isn't actually solving the root problems that lead to crime in the first place. Sometimes it even makes them worse.
Precisely. The show highlights the inherent inability of American policing to solve the actual underlying problems that cause crime, things like poverty, addiction, lack of opportunity. There's a memorable scene where a new police captain, Captain Aceveda actually,
Played by Benito Martinez.
right, he famously states, "We can't solve poverty, we can't solve addiction, but we can distinguish between the criminals and the citizens." Now, this viewpoint, while pragmatic on the surface, echoes the criticisms of activists who argue that policing, by focusing solely on symptoms, often exacerbates problems by criminalizing poverty and failing to address social inequities.
Focusing on containment, not solutions.
Exactly. The series frequently demonstrates how police actions, particularly those of the strike team, can, in fact, create cycles of crime and poverty, rather than breaking them, for instance, by tearing apart families through aggressive tactics or framing innocent people.
And the strike team's methods were, to say the least, extremely problematic. They completely disregarded civil liberties, operating as if they were totally above the law.
Totally. The strike team operates with flagrant disregard for civil liberties and procedural justice. They routinely break every law on the books, from drug dealing and torture to planting evidence, illegal searches and seizures, and outright murder. These aren't isolated incidents. This is their standard operating procedure.
Just another day, like the theme song says.
Exactly. The show even depicts officers seizing cars and houses from unconvicted criminals to fund more cops and military-grade weaponry for the strike team, essentially self-funding through illicit means via asset forfeiture. In one particularly stark and unforgettable scene, a black officer protests that taking a single mother's house will put her and her children onto the street, virtually destining them for a life of crime.
And the captain's response.
The captain's chilling response dismisses any ethical concerns. "I don't care what skin color you are, but you're either blue or you're out." This just illustrates the immense pressure to conform to the blue wall of silence and the systemic nature of the corruption, where loyalty to the force outweighs individual morality or the impact on the community they're supposed to serve.
The show also aired in the shadow of 9/11, and it seems those anxieties, that national shift in focus, found their way into the narrative as well, reflecting the war on terror at home.
Yes, absolutely. The Shield uncannily captures the widespread fear and paranoia of the post-9/11 years and how that fear was weaponized by the state both at home and abroad. Despite being set exclusively in the streets of Los Angeles, there are no shortage of references to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Like with Army.
Exactly. A strike team member, nicknamed Army, played by Michael Pena for a bit, explicitly teaches others abusive tactics he learned going door to door in Baghdad. This directly draws a chilling connection between domestic policing tactics and wartime interrogation methods. It suggests a militarization of local law enforcement and a blurring of lines between combat zones and city streets that feels incredibly relevant today.
And this extends to its extremely disturbing and often really hard to watch portrayal of torture as a policing tactic.
It does, unfortunately. The pilot episode itself immediately confronts viewers with this, showing Vic torturing a suspect in an interrogation room, not only under his captain's watch, but with the captain's tacit approval. This escalates in later seasons to even more brutal methods, burning, beating, threatening suspects with rape and death in prison.
The torture site.
Yeah, he even establishes a secret remote torture site where victims are suspended from chains. An image strikingly similar to those seen in American torture camps like Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay, which were subjects of huge public outcry around the time the show aired. Now, while stomach-turning and ethically reprehensible, the Jacobin source highlights a problematic aspect within the show's narrative itself.
What's that?
It problematically portrays torture as effective, suggesting it's a viable method for getting the bad guys and extracting information. This is a point of significant criticism because, as real-life evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates, confessions extracted under torture are often false, unreliable, and lead to terrible miscarriages of justice.
So the show depicts it, but maybe validates it narratively.
To some extent, yes. It raises uncomfortable questions about the ends justifying the means, even as it depicts the grim reality of such tactics. It's a very tricky line the show walks.
It's interesting how the show evolved with the times, too, even reflecting the changing perceptions of federal agencies and the broader security apparatus in the wake of 9/11.
Yeah, the series illustrates how during that period, rational thinking and proportionate responses were dismissed in favor of groupthink and maximal force across law enforcement. It also depicts a minor gang member claiming al-Qaeda affiliation, which immediately brings the Department of Homeland Security into the case, demonstrating the broad and often overwhelming reach of the post-9/11 anti-terror apparatus into local criminal investigations.
And then ICE shows up later on.
Right. In its final seasons, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, makes an appearance. Initially, they're presented as kind of the cutting-edge face of federal law enforcement, maybe offering an alternative to the LAPD's brutal, old-school tactics. However, a source notes that today, after mass protests against ICE and a significant shift in public perception,
Yeah, views have changed drastically.
one wonders if the writers would have shaped that storyline the same way. Many now see ICE not as a progressive alternative, but as a heavy-handed expression of American xenophobia and anti-immigrant paranoia. This highlights how the show, while forward-thinking and reflective of its time, also serves as a historical document, capturing prevailing attitudes that have since evolved quite dramatically.
Now let's shift gears from the systemic critique to a fascinating fan theory that attempts to get to the very core of Vic Mackey's actions, delving into his past to understand why he became the man he is. A psychoanalysis of his character through the lens of trauma and compartmentalization.
Ooh, yeah, this is a particularly insightful area of fan speculation, mainly because it tries to fill in the deliberate gaps left by the creators. A fascinating aspect of The Shield is its deliberate lack of extensive character backstories. The show largely operates on the principle that action equals character.
Show don't tell, basically.
Exactly. This means viewers get almost nothing about Vic's past before he became a cop, which, by design, encourages speculation and forces the audience to infer what shaped him based purely on his present actions. It's a bold narrative choice that makes the character all the more mysterious and compelling.
And the theory about an abusive father is quite compelling, given the sparse details we do get about his family life. What kind of evidence from the show supports this idea?
It is compelling. One popular fan theory, supported by sparse details like Vic mentioning his father was a bricklayer, and the very delayed reveal of his middle name, Samuel, which kind of suggests a hidden past posit that Vic was a victim of familial trauma, possibly from an abusive father. This theory attempts to answer several key questions about his character and helps many viewers reconcile his seemingly contradictory traits, like his brutal policing and his seemingly devoted family life. It connects the dots in a way the show intentionally leaves open for interpretation.
So, why does a brutally violent cop like Vic Mackey feel this desperate need to be the perfect family man, often presenting this seemingly wholesome image despite his dark deeds? How does the theory explain that?
The theory posits that Vic's desperate need to appear as a good father, often focusing on superficial, traditional ideas of fatherhood like being masculine, stoic.
Yeah.
The provider could stem directly from wanting to be better than his own abusive father,
Yeah.
and a deep-seated refusal to accept being anything like him. It's a compensatory mechanism.
Trying to overcorrect.
Exactly. His fixation on helping mothers and children, especially single ones in distressed situations, could be a subconscious way to feel righteous and compensate for a perceived past inability to help his own mother during a difficult upbringing. The source highlights moments where Vic is forced to act against this perceived righteousness, like when he brutally beats a prostitute named Connie. It tragically echoes this potential past trauma and his inability to truly escape its shadow no matter how hard he tries to project that good dad image.
And his constant need to project this hypermasculine macho image to always be the toughest guy in the room. Where does that come from if we follow this theory?
His constant need to one-up everyone, to maintain a macho facade, and to exert dominance could be a direct response to feeling emasculated and powerless during a rough upbringing. Sean Ryan himself actually confirmed that Vic experienced bullying as a child.
Oh, really? The creator confirmed that.
Yeah, which aligns perfectly with this theory. It suggests he became a bully himself as a coping mechanism, turning the tables on those who once tormented him. This also explains his deep-seated disdain for authority figures. He consistently messes with any authority figure in his way, pushing boundaries and defying orders constantly.
Like with Aceveda, constantly.
Exactly. Additionally, his ambition and greed, most notably seen in the ill-fated money train heist, could be a drive to surpass the perceived low status of his bricklayer father and avoid a similar broke and miserable fate as his grandparents. It indicates a deep fear of repeating a cycle of perceived failure or powerlessness.
And why choose to be a cop, out of all professions, for someone with this kind of background? It seems like a strange fit for someone who despises authority so much.
Well, beyond the obvious power that policing offers, becoming a cop could provide a legally sanctioned way for him to be a bully.
Hmm.
And maybe, in his mind, rectify injustices he may have faced or witnessed in his youth.
A twisted form of justice.
Right. The theory suggests that abusing criminals might make him feel better about what bullies or his own father did to him, a form of twisted catharsis. He consistently justifies his bad deeds by believing he's doing more good than bad, a balancing of the scales of sorts. That's a philosophy he explicitly shares with others, suggesting a deep-seated need for self-justification rooted in a personal crusade against perceived wrongdoings, whether past or present. It's a way for him to feel righteous and in control despite his morally bankrupt actions.
But perhaps the most critical insight from this theory, the one that underpins so much of his character, is about his incredible, almost superhuman ability to compartmentalize his actions and emotions.
Ah, yes, compartmentalization. One of Vic's most important and frankly chilling character traits is his insane ability to compartmentalize. And that's a common, deeply ingrained trauma response.
How does it manifest in him?
It allows him to self-gaslight, essentially, twisting his actions and memories to fit his desired persona of a good cop, a devoted family man, a loyal friend. For example, he can brutally murder Terry Crowley for the sake of the team's survival, and then minutes later genuinely comfort his distressed colleagues, truly believing he acted for the greater good, for their good.
He convinces himself.
Totally. Similarly, he uses his kid's autism as an excuse to justify his abuse of the law, portraying himself as a desperate father just trying to secure their future, even as he commits horrendous crimes. He constantly rationalizes his actions, no matter how heinous, as being for a greater righteous good. It enables him to live with the immense cognitive dissonance that would crush most people.
And he's often described as a shark, always needing to keep moving, always in action. How does that fit into this theory of trauma and his ultimate downfall?
The description of Vic as a shark, always needing to keep moving, aligns perfectly with the idea that constant action, potentially stemming from overstimulation caused by childhood abuse, serves as a powerful distraction. It prevents him from reflecting on his trauma and past mistakes.
If he stops, he has to think.
Precisely. This relentless drive prevents him from truly confronting the moral abyss he's created. These two factors, his intense compartmentalization and his constant need for action, are, ironically, his biggest flaws. They lead to what economists call the sunken cost fallacy.
Right, throwing good money after bad.
Or in his case, throwing bad deeds after bad deeds. He kept doubling down because he'd already invested so much, always believing in one last job that would fix everything or make him truly secure. This fatal flaw ultimately leads to his downfall, as each last job only digs him deeper into his moral grave.
Until Lem's death.
Yes. His breakdown after Lem's death, when his facade finally cracks and he is truly broken, is a rare, powerful moment when his actions finally catch up with him. Yet even in his final, detached confession to ICE, he only keeps Lem's murder in the picture. He can't truly face the full weight of his numerous betrayals and crimes, demonstrating the enduring, almost unbreakable power of his compartmentalization right to the very end.
It's clear that The Shield is more than just a cop show. It's a true piece of art, deeply impactful and meticulously crafted.
Oh, it's widely regarded as such, a true landmark in television. The Shield is seen as a real piece of art, masterfully blending the fast-paced popcorn blockbuster cop show elements. Cool action sequences, effective, deliberate overacting when needed for dramatic effect, with pure complex drama.
The quieter moments.
Exactly. Characterized by impactful silent scenes, nuanced, raw acting, and very realistic, deeply flawed characters. This intricate mixture is seen as the best movie formula by one viewer, creating a unique and compelling viewing experience that keeps you both entertained and intellectually stimulated.
And it was truly ahead of its time, influencing so much of what we now call peak TV, setting the stage for the prestige drama we see today.
Many viewers assert it was profoundly ahead of its time and find that it only gets better every time they rewatch it, some having seen it 6 or 7 times and discovering new layers with each viewing.
That's dedication.
It is. The show's writing and the way its entire 7-season series built around a single act from the pilot episode, that shocking murder of Terry Crowley, is described as "thing brilliant" by one ardent fan. This structural mastery, where every event ripples outward from that initial transgression, makes every other show seem lackluster, contrived, and boring by comparison. as one source argues. This thematic depth and narrative precision really cement its place as a transformative work in television history.
And then there's that unforgettable series finale. It's talked about almost as much as The Sopranos finale for its impact and ambiguity.
It is indeed widely regarded as one of the best series finales ever made. It offers a realistic and morally complex conclusion, very much akin to The Sopranos' famously ambiguous ending. While Vic Mackey seemingly walks away scot-free, legally, after cutting that immunity deal that lands his last loyal team member, Ronnie Gardocki, in handcuffs.
Poor Ronnie.
Right. And even gets Vic a new job with ICE. He's condemned to a unique form of personal hell. For a man of action and intensity like Vic, a desk job, forced suits, a 3-year ban on carrying a firearm, it becomes a sentence in purgatory. A living death for someone whose identity is inextricably linked to raw, violent action.
He's completely neutered.
Exactly. And his family is even relocated by witness protection, arguably to keep them safe from him and the enemies he made. It underscores his ultimate isolation and the profound, if unconventional, consequences of his actions. He gets away with it, but he loses everything that mattered to him, or that he thought mattered.
So while Vic seems to escape traditional justice, his team pays the ultimate price for his transgressions. The contrast is just brutal.
Incredibly stark contrast. The rest of his strike team members pay dearly for his transgressions, highlighting his corrupting influence and the ripple effect of his choices. Terry Crowley dies at Vic's hand in the pilot, sacrificed for the team's secrets. Curtis Lemansky, the moral center, is brutally killed by Shane.
Which triggers Shane's final spiral.
Right. And Shane himself, plagued by guilt from their collective deeds and specifically Lem's death, tragically takes the lives of his family, his wife Mara and young son Jackson, and then himself in the series' horrifying penultimate moments. This stark difference highlights the central theme, Vic getting away with almost all his sins, at least legally, while everyone in his orbit suffers the ultimate consequences. It reinforces the idea of his destructive and insidious impact on those closest to him.
And that very last shot of the series, it leaves you with so much to think about, solidifying its place in television history.
Oh, that last shot. Vic Mackey, sitting alone at his sterile desk, hearing police sirens outside, contemplating joining the chase, then grabbing his gun from his desk drawer and standing up, that look in his eyes, ready to rejoin the fray somehow. It provides a fitting and infuriating end to one of television drama's greatest anti-heroes.
Because he hasn't learned a thing.
Exactly. It solidifies its place as one of TV's greatest stories ever told, precisely because it doesn't offer a neat resolution. Instead, it leaves the audience with this perpetual state of unresolved conflict within Vic himself. It implies that the shark, despite being out of the water, will always seek to swim, always seek the action, even if it means more destruction. He is trapped in his own nature forever.
It's clear this show leaves a deep mark on its viewers, and its legacy is undeniable. Why do you think it sticks with people so profoundly, even years after it's ended? What's the magic ingredient?
I think it's a combination of things. Viewers describe experiencing this incredibly wide spectrum of emotions. From feeling like a kid again, rooting for these cool masculine guys and wanting to play cops and criminals, to feeling totally devastated as an adult by the characters' raw emotions and the realistic, often brutal consequences of their actions.
It hits on different levels.
It really does. And the show's nuanced humor, particularly from characters like Claudette and Billings, is consistently noted as spot-on and natural. It provides crucial, often dark levity amidst the intense drama. This broad emotional range from exhilaration to despair makes a viewing experience incredibly rich, complex, and ultimately deeply memorable.
It's not just entertainment, then. It's something that makes you think. It sparks real conversations long after the credits roll.
Absolutely. The show invites deep philosophical discussion. Much like reading a really complex book, it prompts viewers to think critically about the characters' actions and apply those insights to real-life questions of cowardice, hypocrisy, loyalty, friendship. The big stuff.
The gray areas.
Exactly. The moral complexity, where heroes are flawed and villains sometimes sympathetic, ensures it avoids easy judgments. It leads to ongoing reflection and debate among its audience about the nature of justice and human fallibility. It forces you to confront uncomfortable truths about power and morality, both in the show and in the real world.
And for many, it remains an undisputed masterpiece, holding a special place in their personal viewing history.
Yeah, many feel empty and depressed when their S.H.I.E.L.D. journey ends, which highlights its profound and lasting impact. For those who can accept and embrace the proposition of its dark and morally ambiguous world, who are willing to witness humanity at its most compromised, it often leaves a strong impression. It remains untouched at the summit of their personal best series lists, even above other acclaimed dramas like 6 Feet Under or The Leftovers.
High praise indeed.
This profound connection and emotional resonance are why it truly remains a masterpiece that has touched strings for cinema love that not any movie or TV show touching in years, as one viewer beautifully put it. It's a show that defies easy categorization and continues to challenge its audience long after it concludes.
So we've taken a deep dive into The Shield, exploring its innovative approach to storytelling and its bold, unflinching deconstruction of law enforcement. We've seen how its raw portrayal of corruption and moral ambiguity really paved the way for peak TV, while challenging us as viewers to think critically about accountability, human nature, and the systems that shape us.
And ultimately, The Shield presents us with a really compelling, maybe even disturbing question. In a world where systems are inherently broken, maybe flawed beyond repair, can one person, even with what they perceive as the best intentions, truly do more good than bad without becoming inextricably a part of the very corruption they claim to fight?
That's the core dilemma, isn't it?
It is. And what responsibility do we as viewers have in acknowledging the uncomfortable truths it presents, even when they challenge our most fundamental beliefs about justice and heroism? It doesn't give easy answers.
It definitely doesn't. If this deep dive into The Shield has sparked your curiosity, or maybe just confirmed your love for this groundbreaking series, we encourage you to subscribe to The Deep Dive to get more curated insights like this delivered directly to you.
Please do.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, please consider liking this episode and definitely leave a comment to share your thoughts on The Shield and its profound impact. Did Vic do more good than bad? Was Shane your favorite? We truly love hearing from you and engaging with your perspectives.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to The Deep Dive.